In this topic, we are going to cover serialization. Serialization is the process of translating data structures or objects into a format that can be stored or transmitted and then later reconstructed by deserializing the serialized object. This can be really useful, for example, if we want to store the state of something for later use, or if we are transmitting data across the network. There are a few different ways to do this in Python, but for this lesson, we'll be doing this serialization and deserialization process by using pickling with the pickle library. So let's get started by importing pickle. We can save this. Serialization demo.py. We can execute this. And now that we have the file saved and syntax highlighting on, we can set up a hackers dictionary for an example. So we could say that there are some hackers. Let's call the first one Newt, give him a level of 1. Geohot, give him a level of 100. And Neo, and give him a level of 1000. We can take a look at this dictionary for key value in hackers.items. We can print out the key value pairs. We can see the output as expected, Newt, Geohot, and Neo. And so now that we have this dictionary, let's create a serialized version of it. And this serialized version is going to be in a binary format. So it's not necessarily going to be human readable, and that's also not the intention, but it's a consistent structure that Python understands. So let's create a serialized version. We can use pickle.dump_s and pass in the dictionary, and we can take a look at this, see what it looks like when it's serialized. And so here we can see the serialized version of this hackers dictionary. So now that we have the serialized version, we can deserialize and load it. So we might want to make a new dictionary, hackers2. We can use pickle.loads. We want to pass in the serialized data and print this out. Execute this. And so now we can see we first printed out our normal Python dictionary. Then we serialized the dictionary and printed that out, which is this structure here. Then we loaded the serialized dictionary and printed it back out, and we can see that we have the same output. We can also print it out in the same way for key value in hackers v2.items, print the value. And we can see that we indeed have the exact same data in two separate dictionaries. And you might say that this is not that useful because all we've done is moved a dictionary into another variable. And in this case, you'd be right. But the value of serialization is that we can also store the serialized object in a file. So for example, this could be used to store the save state of a game or your current location in some list of items that you're trying to brute force. So for example, we could save this dictionary to disk. So we could say with open hackers.pickle. We want to write a file, but we want to write bytes because this is stored as bytes here. And we could say pickle.dump as handle rather, pickle.dump, and we would save hackers, which is what we want to save. And we specify the handle, which is where we want it to be saved to. And we can execute this and take a look in our directory. And we can see that we now have this hackers.pickle file. And we can take a look at this. And here we can see that same structure, 800495, 800495. And now that we have the structure saved, we don't need to save it every time we execute this file. And what we can instead do is we can load it. So we could say with open hackers.pickle. And we want to read the bytes this time. We can create a v3 of our dictionary. pickle.load from the handle. And we can print out this third version of our Hacker Dictionary and execute this. And we can see again that we have the same data as our output. However, this time, this dictionary has come from this hackers.pickle file, which was stored on disk. We've loaded it into our program, and now that we've done that, we can use it. However, it's important to note that when serializing data, we aren't storing objects. We are just storing the attributes of those objects, which is useful in some cases, but be really careful when you are deserializing. Because if we aren't careful with the data we deserialize, we can open ourselves up to code injection type attacks. It's also important to know that not everything can be easily pickled, like what we did here with this simple dictionary. For example, generators and Lambda functions are much more difficult to serialize due to how they work. But that's it for now, and in the next lesson, we're going to talk about closures.